At dinner I made. My FIL stole my seat and said, "You can stand." I exposed his trust fund plot. At a dinner I cooked. My father-in-law took my seat and said, "You can stand." I repeated under my breath, the words searing my tongue like the overcooked lamb I'd spent hours perfecting. The dining room, lit by a flickering chandelier, felt like a stage where I was the only one unprepared. My father-in-law, Robert, sat at the head of the table, my seat, his broad shoulders squared, a smirk curling his lips as he gestured to the empty space behind me. The other guests, my husband James, his sister Emily, and our neighbor Sophia, froze, their forks hovering over plates of rosemary-crusted potatoes. The air thickened with the scent of garlic and unspoken tension. I clutched the serving tray, my knuckles whitening. Robert's eyes, sharp as the carving knife beside him, dared me to protest. "Plenty of room for you to hover, Sarah," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "You're good at that, aren't you?" The jab landed like a slap, referencing the months I'd spent deferring to him, biting my tongue when he criticized my cooking, my job, my everything. James shifted in his seat, his gaze fixed on his plate, as if the green beans held the secrets of the universe. Emily coughed, a nervous tick, while Sophia's wide eyes darted between us. My chest tightened, pride clawing at my throat. I wanted to fling the tray, to demand my place, but my feet stayed rooted. Years of keeping peace, of being the good wife, chained me to silence. Robert leaned back, his chair creaking, and began carving the lamb, his movements deliberate, claiming the space as his own. The clink of silverware resumed, a fragile normalcy, but my pulse hammered. I set the tray down, my hands trembling, and stepped back, standing against the wall, the cold plaster pressed into my spine, grounding me. I'd cooked this dinner to prove myself, to show Robert I belonged in this family. For months, he'd undermined me, dismissing my marketing job as cute, questioning my decision to keep my maiden name, even joking I was too modern for James. Tonight was supposed to be my moment, a carefully planned menu to win him over. Instead, he'd turned my effort into a power play, and I'd let him. The shame burned, but something else flickered beneath it, a spark of defiance. My eyes lingered on the carving knife, its blade glinting under the chandelier's light. I didn't want to use it, but the thought of gripping its handle, of reclaiming something, stirred me. As Robert droned on about his golf game, I scanned the table. Sophia's furrowed brow suggested discomfort, maybe even sympathy. Emily avoided my gaze, but her fingers twisted her napkin into knots. James, my husband, my supposed partner, still hadn't looked up. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in, but that spark in me grew. I wasn't ready to fight, not yet, but I wasn't invisible. I straightened my shoulders, my shadow stretching across the floor, and promised myself this wouldn't be the window's end. The dining room's chandelier buzzed faintly, its light casting jagged shadows on the wallpaper as I stood against the wall, my legs aching. Robert's voice droned on, now about his latest business deal, each word a hammer driving me deeper into the background. The lamb sat half-eaten, its juices congealing on the platter. A silent accusation of my failure. I wanted to scream, to upend the table, but my pride, raw and bruised, kept me kicked. If I spoke now, my voice would crack, and Robert would pounce on the weakness. James finally glanced at me, his hazel eyes flickering with something. Guilt, maybe, but he said nothing. He pushed a potato around his plate, the fork scraping faintly. Emily, across from him, kept her head down, her blonde curls falling over her face like a curtain. Sophia, though, caught my eye. Her lips parted slightly, as if to speak, but she pressed them shut, her fingers tightening around her wineglass. That hesitation stuck with me, a thread I couldn't yet pull. I excused myself to the kitchen, claiming I needed to check the dessert. The door swung shut behind me, muffling Robert's laughter. Alone. I gripped the counter, my reflection distorted in the stainless steel of the mixing bowl. My face looked hollow, my dark hair limp from the evening's heat. I'd spent years building a life with James, earning my place, only to be reduced to a ghost in my own home. The shame of standing there, of letting Robert win, churned in my gut, but confronting him now felt like stepping into a trap. He'd twist my words, make me the ungrateful daughter-in-law. I busied myself with the raspberry tart, its crimson glaze gleaming under the kitchen lights. As I sliced it, the knife's weight steadied me. A reminder of that spark from earlier. I wasn't ready to fight, but I wasn't done either. The door creaked, and Sophia slipped in, her navy dress swishing. "Sarah," she whispered, glancing back. "That was out of line. Are you okay?" Her concern caught me off guard, like sunlight breaking through clouds. "I'm fine," I lied, my voice tight. Sophia hesitated, then stepped closer, her perfume sharp and floral. "Robert's always been controlling," she said, her words careful. "But I heard him on the phone last week talking about James's trust fund. It sounded off, like he's hiding something." Her eyes searched mine, as if testing whether I'd bite. My pulse quickened. A trust fund? James had never mentioned it. And Robert controlled the family's finances with an iron grip. Was this why he needed to keep me small? To keep me out? I wanted to press her, but the kitchen door swung open, and Emily appeared, her face pale. "Dad's asking for dessert," she said. Her voice clipped. Sophia stepped back, her expression unreadable, and the moment snapped shut. Back in the dining room, I served the tart, my hands steady despite the storm inside. Robert took a bite, chewing slowly, then said, "Not bad, Sarah. You might be good for something." The table laughed. A brittle sound, but Sophia's gaze lingered on me. A silent question. I smiled thinly, my mind racing. That spark of defiance grew hotter. Fed by Sophia's words, Robert thought he'd won. But he'd just given me a reason to start digging. The next morning, the kitchen smelled of Yorkshire puddings, stale coffee, and regret. I stood at the counter, my fingers tracing the edge of a chipped mug. Its blue glaze cracked like my resolve. Robert's smirk from last night haunted me. But Sophia's words about the trust fund burned brighter. If he was hiding something, I needed proof. Not just for me, but to reclaim my pride. I couldn't confront him blind. He'd crush me. So I started small, methodical, like assembling a puzzle with half the pieces missing. I called Sophia, my voice low as James showered upstairs. "That trust fund," I said. "What exactly did you hear?" She hesitated, then described Robert's phone call, vague mentions of securing the funds and keeping James in line. She'd overheard it at a neighborhood barbecue, Robert's voice sharp through the patio door. "I didn't think much of it then," she said. "But after last night, Sarah, be careful. He's not just controlling, he's calculated." Her warning sent a chill through me, but her willingness to help felt like a lifeline. Sophia was my ally now, the only one who saw through Robert's facade. I dug deeper, starting with James's old financial documents in our home office. The room was dim, the blinds casting slatted shadows across the desk. Amid tax returns and bank statements, I found a letter from Robert's lawyer, dated 2 years ago, referencing a trust fund for James, to be managed at the trustee's discretion. Robert was the trustee. My stomach twisted. Why hadn't James told me? Was he complicit, or just clueless? I snapped a photo of the letter, my hands unsteady. The cameras clicked loud in the silence. Then came the first twist. An email notification pinged on James's open laptop. It was from the lawyer, a reminder about pending trust amendments. The date was recent, last week. Robert was making changes, now, and James hadn't said a word. My pride stung. But worse was the betrayal. Had James been playing me too, letting his father humiliate me to keep the money flowing? I wanted to storm upstairs, demand answers, but I needed more. Sophia suggested checking Robert's office at his real estate firm. He keeps files there, she said. Old school, paper trails. She knew the receptionist, Olivia, who owed her a favor. That afternoon, we slipped into the office after hours, the parking lot empty under a gray sky. Olivia let us in, her nervous smile flashing as she handed over a spare key. Robert's office smelled of leather and cigar smoke, his desk cluttered with contracts. In a locked drawer, picked open with Sophia's hairpin, I found a folder labeled Family Assets. Inside were trust fund documents, but the second twist hit like a freight train. The fund wasn't just for James. Emily was listed as a co-beneficiary, with a clause granting Robert full control until both siblings proved loyalty. A handwritten note in Robert's scrawl read, "Keep Sarah out, too risky." My breath caught. Robert wasn't just sidelining me. He was weaponizing the money to control his children, pitting them against me. Sophia's eyes widened as she read over my shoulder. "This is sick," she whispered. "He's playing God." I stuffed the papers back, my mind racing. Emily's nervous tics at dinner made sense now. She was trapped, too. That evening, James came home, his tie loosened, unaware of my discovery. I couldn't hold it in. In the living room, the lamplight harsh on his face, I confronted him. "Why didn't you tell me about the trust fund?" I demanded. My voice raw. He froze, his jaw tightening. "It's not a big deal. Sarah, Dad handles it." His dismissal ignited me. "Not a big deal? He's changing it behind your back. James, and Emily's tied up in it, too. He's controlling you both, and you let him humiliate me." My words cracked like a whip. The air electric. James's face reddened, but he snapped. "You're overreacting. You don't get how this family works." His defiance, so unlike his usual passivity, shook me. For a moment, I saw Robert in him, and it broke something inside me. I turned away, my shadow sharp against the wall. I had the proof now, and Sophia by my side. Robert thought he held all the cards, but I was rewriting the game. The dining room felt different now, its chandelier glowing steady, casting a harsh light on the table where I'd once stood humiliated. Tonight, it was just Robert and me, the air thick with the scent of coffee and my resolve. I'd invited him over, claiming I wanted to clear the air after the dinner. James was at a work event, Emily unreachable, and Sophia waiting nearby, ready to back me up. The trust fund documents, copied and tucked in my bag, were my weapon. My pride demanded I end this, not with a scream, but with a scalpel. Robert sat across from me, his gray suit immaculate, his smirk faint but present. "So, Sarah," he said, stirring his coffee. "Ready to apologize for your little scene?" His voice was smooth, but his eyes gleamed with the same challenge from that night. I leaned forward, my hands steady on the table, the wood cool under my palms. "No, Robert. I'm here to talk about the trust fund, the one you're manipulating to control James and Emily." His spoon paused mid-stir, a ripple breaking the coffee's surface. "Careful, girl," he said, his tone low. "You're out of your depth." But I was done shrinking. I pulled out the copied documents, sliding them across the table. "These say otherwise. You've been changing terms, tying their inheritance to loyalty. You wrote, 'Keep Sarah out. Too risky.' Why? Because I won't bow to you?" My voice was steady, each word a blade, cutting through his composure. The chandelier's light caught the sweat beading on his forehead, a crack in his armor. Robert's face hardened, but he leaned back, forcing a laugh. "You think you're clever? Digging through my files? James won't thank you for this. He knows his place." The jab stung, but I pressed on. "James doesn't know you're stealing from him, or that you're pitting him against Emily, but I do, and I'm done letting you play God." My heart pounded, but my pride burned hotter. This was my moment, my seat reclaimed. Then came the deep layer reveal. Robert's eyes flickered, not with anger, but something softer, fear. "You don't understand why," he said, his voice quieter. "I'm protecting them." My wife, before she died, she made me promise to keep the family together. You're an outsider. Sarah. You could tear them apart. His confession stunned me. A glimpse of a man driven by loss. Not just greed. For a moment, I wavered, my anger faltering. But his actions, his cruelty, his control, weren't justified. He'd chosen to hurt me, to diminish me, and that couldn't stand. I stood, my shadow stretching across the table, mirroring that first night. You don't get to decide who belongs. Robert, not anymore. I laid out my terms. Step down as trustee, or I'd show the documents to James, Emily, and their lawyer. Private exposure, sharp and final. This ends now, I said, my voice a whip crack in the silent room. Robert's jaw clenched, his hands fisting. But he nodded. A grudging surrender. You win, he muttered, the words bitter, but you'll regret this. As he left, the door slamming behind him, I sank into the chair, my chair. The victory was mine, but it tasted bittersweet. James would need to know. And Emily too. The family might fracture, but I'd fought for my place, my pride intact. The chandelier hummed above, its light no longer jagged, and I exhaled, ready for whatever came next.